Hi, I'm Maggie, and this is my quarterly update video on-the-go inconveniences. To introduce you to the problem, I'm going to introduce on-the-go delivery systems. So in typical delivery systems, when helpers agree to complete a delivery, they could be asked to pick up and deliver anywhere within a fairly large radius of a city. So if you think of Postmates, they could be asked to pick up from many restaurants within the confines of the city and be asked to deliver to any citizens. Many people with jobs or everyday routines can't participate as deliverers in these systems because these tasks are really time-consuming and high effort. On-the-go crowdsourcing systems differ from traditional delivery systems by asking people to deliver only if it would require minimal deviation from their original plans or routine. So imagine someone picking up coffee for themselves before work and being asked to deliver coffee to a peer working only 1 block away from them. If it's easy enough, they might agree to help. One of the core challenges in on-the-go systems is ensuring that tasks are, in fact, convenient for helpers, requiring minimal deviation from their existing routine and involving a seamless handoff to the requester. Because these on-the-go helpers aren't dedicated workers, they are unlikely to continue participating if they find it too inconvenient. User testing has shown that helpers become anxious and frustrated when requesters don't respond promptly to communication or arrive late to the meeting point. This is especially frustrating if helpers subsequently become late for their next engagement. However, this happens because deliveries are opportunistic, thus requesters don't know when or if their delivery will occur. As many requesters have routines as well, they might be unwilling or unable to diligently wait for their delivery for the entire time period. This uncertainty around delivery time may lead them to engage in other tasks that prevent them from accepting their deliveries on time. This quarter, I built and tested features to help requesters better predict delivery time and time their on-time arrival at the meeting point. I ran a study to show how we can reduce the timing uncertainty in deliveries by giving more information to requesters about helper status and delivery time probabilities. These features reduce the time that the helper had to wait for responses to texts and for the requester after arriving at the meeting point. In terms of need finding, a major challenge I faced was how to display 2 sources of uncertainty to requesters. The first being whether or not their delivery would be delivered at all, and then, if so, what time it would arrive. I did multiple rounds of prototyping with DTR students to settle on a design that users understood intuitively, which I ultimately implemented in my prototype. And these on the screen are just some examples of my prototypes using a prototyping tool. This quarter, I developed 2 new features. The first is a time probability visualization that captures uncertainty around delivery time. Hopefully, a general estimate for delivery time should give requesters a better idea of when they should expect a delivery so that they can effectively plan their schedules during the request timeframe and make informed decisions, like how attentive they need to be, how far they can stray from their meeting point while waiting, and whether they can schedule an alternate, non-interruptible activity. As a solution to the problem I addressed before, and that there are 2 sources of uncertainty, I split them up into 2 parts of the screen. At the top of the screen, I show the probability that the request will occur at all. That's the section labeled overall % tasks accepted on the blue. And then on the bottom of the screen, under request details, there's a second section titled % requests typically completed. And this gives more information about what time requesters should expect their delivery if it does occur. Within this graph, all of the probabilities sum to 100%, and because users knew that 100% of requests weren't being delivered, they were able to quickly reason that the probabilities within this graph were only relevant to the case when the request was accepted. Users compared these probabilities as relative numbers. So rather than interpreting the 60% as, 60% of requests happen during this time frame, they just reasoned that certain time frames were had higher likelihoods than others, but weren't using the numbers as absolutes. Some use cases of users using this time probability graph include people deciding to make calls or take a little extra time to eat during lower probability periods, so they were engaging in activities that would have made it otherwise harder to accept a delivery but worked better for their schedules. And we saw users moving closer to the meeting point during the higher probability timeframes, just in case. The second feature that I developed is a set of notifications that update the requester on the helper status and suggest when requesters should start heading to the meeting point. The idea is that with these, deliveries won't surprise requesters as they would if the requester was only notified when the helper had already arrived. So these help the requesters arrive perhaps around 3 minutes early to the meeting point so that the helper doesn't have to wait. In order to test these new features, I ran a study, and the goal was to show how we can reduce the timing uncertainty in deliveries by giving more information to requesters about helper status and delivery time probabilities so they can better plan A, their schedule while waiting, B, being responsive when the helper needs to communicate, and C, arriving at the meeting point on time. Each user in the study was asked to use an iOS app to make 2 snack requests that were then delivered. They had to enter a 2-hour time frame and several meeting points that they would be willing to go to accept the delivery, and the delivery could happen any time within that time frame or not at all. In order to guarantee sufficient helper supply, I acted as a control in the study with the help of other DTR students, so I delivered all of the snacks and controlled what time they would be delivered. After users placed a request, they could see a graph of what time their request was likely to occur. For each user's first request, the graph showed a high likelihood of delivery during the 4th 30-minute time frame, and then I did in fact deliver during this 4th time frame to see if requesters were in fact well prepared for deliveries that happened at the most likely time. For each user's second request, the graph showed a high likelihood of delivery during the 2nd 30-minute time frame. I still delivered during the 4th time frame, however, to see if requesters were well prepared for deliveries that happened at a less likely time. Study methods included the number of minutes the helper waited for the requester at the meeting point, the number of minutes helpers waited for a response to texts, as well as qualitative feedback on how prepared requesters felt for their deliveries. The study revealed that requesters were actually quite willing to block out the entire 2-hour time frame, but still use a time probability graph to better plan their schedules. So, for example, as mentioned before, one user decided to schedule some calls during the less likely period, whereas another user took a little bit longer to get to an area close to the meeting point because she knew that it was unlikely to be delivered soon, so she didn't feel the need to hurry over. Users also effectively used the notifications to arrive at the meeting point either a couple minutes before or at the same time as the requester. So you can see that out of 17 requests, 14 of the requesters arrived either on time or early, and there were only 3 cases in which the helper had to wait for the requester. In terms of next steps, by controlling the helper supply and by explicitly timing the deliveries, this study was a greatly simplified version of a real system. Future research might look into having organic helpers, which would require the system to accurately populate the time probability graph with accurate data and provide accurately timed notifications to requesters, and these are likely to be somewhat challenging. Overall, this quarter I saw that the new features I developed improved the system by enabling more requesters to arrive early or on time at their meeting points. Hopefully this will significantly decrease the frustration felt by real helpers in such systems. Thank you for listening.